Sister Janet, is it Horstman?
Yes, it is.
All right. And you work with a ministry of the Presentation Sisters there in Sioux Falls called Caminando Juntos.
Excellent. Your Spanish is good, Martin.
I have a little bit of Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah, don't use it too often, but so maybe just start with this is going to be a video for people in the Nano-Nago class.
Okay.
So maybe we could just start with you sort of describing what sort of things the ministry does and your particular role within the ministry.
This ministry is called Caminando Juntos, which means walking together. And it's a ministry of the Presentation Sisters. It's sponsored totally by the Presentation Sisters. We're located in Sioux Falls, and it's a ministry with primarily newer Latino immigrants in Sioux Falls and the surrounding area. We often have people coming, like yesterday, we had people here from Millbank, and we get people from Southwest Minnesota, Northwest Iowa, and the whole, really, East River, South Dakota. And the sisters decided to begin this ministry back in, I believe we opened our ministry in 2002 in October. So it's been about 17 years. And one of the motivating factors was that we became aware when the 2000 census came out, it showed that there was a significantly growing and increasing Latino population in this area.
Right.
And some of our sisters actually were talking to us and saying, you know, those of you that are doing Latino ministry or Hispanic ministry in other places, perhaps you ought to think about doing something in South Dakota. And we were quite surprised to find that there was a significant population in South Dakota at that time and has grown over the years.
Okay.
And so we visited with various agencies and in Sioux Falls, and everybody that we talked with agreed that there was a need for some kind of outreach and some way to connect with the newer Hispanic immigrants in Sioux Falls and the surrounding area. And so our community decided to begin the ministry at that point. And there were 4 of us that that came to Sioux Falls to begin the ministry. It's very important to us, and it was to Nano-Nago. When we see an unmet need, particularly among a population that is vulnerable or has great needs, we feel called to respond to that need.
Right.
And that was the case with this ministry. Everybody we talked to indicated that, or said that, you know, there was definitely a huge need for somebody to reach out and to respond to this new growing population in the area.
Right.
And so 4 of us came to Sioux Falls. 2 of us came from Omaha, 1 from the Chicago area. And one of our sisters actually had retired and was living at the Heights in Aberdeen, but had a background, knew Spanish, and had worked in Mexico. And so she moved to Sioux Falls to help us. You know, we didn't really have a clear sense of what the ministry would be. We just knew that there was a need. And so we said, well, we'll come and we'll be among the people, and we will get to know the people, and we will try our best to discern what needs there are that we might be able to respond to.
Right. Now, the people are coming for work, right?
Well, they're coming for a variety of reasons right now. At that point, many of them were coming primarily to work and, you know, to reunite with family that were already here.
Right.
But jobs was a big magnet. You know, there's a packing plant in Sioux Falls. There's a lot of construction jobs. There's landscaping. There's lots of opportunities. And it seems as though once that word gets out, particularly, you know, people pass that word to other folks that are from their localities in their countries and say, hey, this is a good place to live. There's people are great here. There's lots of opportunities. There's
Yes.
lots of work. So people move from other places.
Right.
And so, but yes, jobs, employment is always a very important factor.
Yeah. Now, do they come from a particular part of Latin America, or?
Well, most of the people that we minister with are from Mexico, Guatemala, and El Salvador, some from Honduras, some from Nicaragua,
Okay.
some from Puerto Rico, and some from South America.
Okay.
But I would say that probably the majority of the folks in Sioux Falls, I'm guessing, is from Guatemala.
Oh, interesting.
But it is a mixture of, I mean, there is definitely a presence of all of those different countries.
Okay. Yeah. So you just started out, you didn't have a clear idea of what sort of, how you would offer that help to them. And so how did all that develop then?
Well, we actually rented a duplex. I say we lived in the backyard of Morel's packing plant. We had a duplex.
Not the ideal place to live.
Well, you know, it was where the people were.
Right.
And so there
Like
were
Nano.
there were folks in our neighborhood that were Latino, and that's basically how we introduced ourselves and began to get acquainted with the people that were here. We, you know, obviously were quite involved at Our Lady of Guadalupe Parish. And particularly when we first started, it was early fall. And so we spent evenings walking the neighborhoods and sometimes going to the grocery stores. We had a laundromat right next door to our home that a lot of the Latino people used. And so it was just a gradual process of, you know, introducing ourselves, gaining their confidence and trust, getting to know them and them to know us. And as that happened, and then of course we had a small office space that was just a couple blocks from where we lived.
Okay.
And that's the location that we're still in. Although it's a larger building and we've expanded about 3 times since we first came here.
Wow.
But gradually, as we got to know people, you know, I guess our goal originally was just to be here and be present and be among the people.
Right.
And to create as much as we could a sense of welcoming them, making them feel at home, doing whatever we could to help them kind of get established here and create a home here in our community. Helping them to understand how things work here as compared to in their own countries, how to respond when the police come or when they need ambulance service, just a lot of different things that, you know, people don't have a sense of when they're coming from very, very different countries and cultures.
Right, yeah. So just kind of acculturating them, getting them used to the different systems.
Well, and helping them integrate into, you know, the community here so that they really can feel a part of the community and feel like they belong here. And so, you know, we visited homes a lot in the beginning. And well, one of the first things that people said was they wanted to learn English. I think there's kind of a myth out there that immigrants don't want to learn English. They just want to be able to speak their own language. Well, that certainly has not been our experience. It's a real challenge and it's a real difficulty because a lot of people are working 8-10 hours a day in very difficult work. And then to come to English classes at night is a real challenge. But we do have some classes during the daytime too, because some people work at night. But so that was one of the first requests that we heard and that we responded to. We did a lot of visitation in those early days at the hospital when people were in the hospital, and we would get called either to Sanford or to Vera McKinnon, just to visit with people and be a presence. Try to bridge some of the gaps, help them understand what was going on. and kind of be a bridge back to, I can remember various times where, you know, we were called to translate in some very, very difficult situations. And so it was just a variety of, I always said every day was different. We never knew what was coming.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and so, but gradually, you know, people really did trust us. I think part of that is the fact that we're sisters. And of course, many of the people, especially from Mexico, come out of a Catholic background.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
so there was a natural trust level there, I think.
Comfort.
And yeah, a sense of comfort. And they knew that, I think they knew that we cared about them, that we respected them, that we wanted them to be here, that we appreciate their culture and the diversity and the richness that that brings. That, you know, we as Americans can learn things from them as well.
Sure.
It's not just them coming and taking from us.
Right.
And so I think they've had a sense that we were genuinely caring and welcoming and wanted them to be here with us.
Okay.
And that goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just establishing that level of trust, like you said, so you can.
And then gradually over the years, other needs became apparent.
Okay.
I think one of the really big challenges for us was that they struggled with finding anyone that could help them with their needs in terms of immigration legal services.
Okay.
And Lutheran Social Services has a legal services program. They work primarily with refugees, which is a very different population than people that are coming on their own. Refugees, of course, are approved by and sponsored by the government to be resettled here.
Right.
And, you know, with people that are coming through what we call a family-based immigration system, where a family member is sponsoring them, there isn't that infrastructure in place to help them once they're here. And so we found that a lot of people were asking for assistance with immigration legal services. And there wasn't anything available in their own language. You know, if they went to a private attorney's office or anywhere else, they needed to take an interpreter or pay an interpreter. And private attorneys are pretty much beyond their financial means. Right. And, you know, I had always had an interest in doing immigration or in immigration, the legal process, because I never understood it when I worked in Omaha I worked at Our Lady of Guadalupe in Omaha, and I never understood what people were talking about. And so we started that process back in, I think it was 2004 or 5. I had started to go to legal trainings through Catholic Legal Immigration Network, which is basically what they do, is help nonprofits get established. So anyway, my point is that we got our office recognized, and I became a Department of Justice accredited representative back in 2006. And so I've been doing immigration legal services since that time.
Yeah. And did you have a background, a legal background yourself then?
I did not.
Okay. Wow.
I am a teacher by background. I taught high school. I taught at Roncalli. I taught at Del Rapids St. Mary's. I taught at a Catholic high school in Omaha. Then I went to live in Mexico for a couple of years and worked in one of our missions down there. And then I came back. And so, no, I had no background in a legal background. I'm limited in what I'm able to do. But I've helped many, many families who already have a person in their family that's a permanent resident or a U.S. citizen that have applied for visas to bring other family members to live here, help them get green cards, help them get work permits. I've done a lot of citizenship cases, helping people become U.S. citizens. And so that's primarily what occupies my time.
Okay, yeah.
And so, I mean, that was another need that we saw that nobody was responding to, where we felt like there was really a gap in the services. And so we said, well, you know, if we really are here to meet the needs, maybe we need to look at this. And our community was supportive of us doing that. And it was a big endeavor.
Right. So how long was that process where you got your training?
Well, it's ongoing. I mean,
Okay.
we have to renew,
Right.
I have to renew my personal accreditation every 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the office, it started out that once you had the office recognized or accredited, that that was lifetime, unless, you know, you lost your accredited representative or you decided not to do it anymore, or
Mm-hmm.
you did something to warrant their revoking your accreditation.
Mm-hmm.
But now you have to do that every 6 years to renew the office accreditation as well. And we just went through that process. I think we got the accreditation renewed last February. So we're good for another 5 or 6 years on that. But
Okay.
I have to renew mine every 3 years. So I need to do ongoing training and so on and so forth to keep up with the changes in the laws and the policies and so on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you said, it's pretty complex, I'm sure.
Immigration law, they say, is one of the most complex areas of law that there is.
Yeah, definitely.
But, and you know, I have to be honest, there are many things that I'm not able to do.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sure.
there are many things that I am able to do, and it's a
Okay.
valuable service.
Right. So it's the language services. You teach the classes in English. You
Right.
you offer that
We
legal
do
help.
immigration legal services. Many times, you know, we have a woman that works with us who's from Guatemala. She's our office manager and resource manager.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what she does, she's available every day to help people find the resources they need in the
Okay.
community.
Right.
Sometimes it's helping people do job applications.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people have huge medical bills because they're uninsured, and so she helps them try to set up payment plans with the hospitals or the clinics or wherever it might be,
Mm-hmm.
to get those taken care of. Sometimes it's helping people get their children enrolled in school. Although now I have to say that the school system in Sioux Falls is really, really good. They have homeschool liaisons that assist the immigrant families, and that's been a huge step forward from when we
Mm-hmm.
first came here. Sometimes it's just listening to people and helping them understand how certain things work. Sometimes we have people, women or men, that are in abusive relationships and they don't quite know how to handle that, if they can trust the police to report it, if they're going to get deported, if they do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of misunderstandings and misconceptions out there as well. So
Right.
we really try to help bridge that.
One thing that's described on the website is the Cinco de Mayo festival that you sponsor.
Yeah.
So how does that fit into your ministry?
Well, that actually has become a fundraiser for our ministry.
Okay.
It's developed into, we didn't start it. It was actually a young woman that knew some Latino people that wanted to start it and came to us and said, would you like to be the charity that receives the proceeds from this event?
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, what do we have to do? Well, nothing. We just want you to receive the money. I'm like, well, that sounds great. So yes, we said, yes, we'd do that. Well, she did it 1 year, and then if it was going to continue, you know, we knew that it was going to be up to us to do that. And so it has continued. I think this past year we had our 11th year. It's turned into a large community celebration.
Mm-hmm.
We really have wonderful support from the business community.
Okay.
And it's the major fundraiser for our ministry each year.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and one of the things I love about it is it really does kind of showcase the diversity and the richness of the Latino cultures that are
Okay.
living here among us.
Right.
And, you know, I think, you know, the Caucasian people really, really like it. We've really seen an increase in the diversity of the population that comes to celebrate every year.
Okay.
We get quite a few Africans and other
Mm-hmm.
folks, refugees.
Kind of what you started talking at the beginning about helping that population feel more welcomed and more a part of the community. So it sounds like that festival serves that purpose.
I think it does.
Mm-hmm.
And even some of the Latino people that have been here longer and have children that are born here
Mm-hmm.
will say to us, you know, I bring my kids here in order for them to have an experience of our culture, because
Okay,
they don't know our culture like they need
right,
to.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
So I think it probably has a lot of purposes that we're not even aware of, and touches a lot of people differently.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you know, people really look forward to it.
yeah, yeah.
And
Like quite an event. So at the beginning, you already kind of touched on that connection with Nano Nagel, because that's what I wanted to ask about too. So you kind of feel like you're following in that legacy of reaching out to, like she went to the poor Irish Catholics, right?
absolutely.
Oppressed at that time in Ireland. And yeah, and it kind of struck me too that her idea was for the sisters to go out to where the people are, and
Right.
not being enclosed and having them come to them. And
Right.
so, I mean, you definitely did that by moving, to John Morell's, right by John Morell's, and
Their backyard.
being right in the thick of where the population was,
Yeah.
going out to them.
Yeah. Well, we knew that was about the only way we were going to get connected.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, we could open an office, but if you don't have a connection of any kind with anybody, it's, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Just
no,
develop.
but it was really important to us to meet people where they were. I believe that Nano had a really, really deep belief and conviction that the poor are Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the poor and the vulnerable and the people that are on the margins of society, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
that they really do hold a special place in the heart of God.
Mm-hmm.
She had that deep conviction, and that's really what motivated her and moved her.
Mm-hmm.
It was so much at the center of who she was
Mm-hmm.
that she couldn't not do it.
Right. Yeah.
Couldn't not be there. I really, really do experience that, I think, same
Mm.
spirit in a
Mm-hmm.
very real and tangible way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, many of the people that we work with are very, very vulnerable. They're in very, very
Mm-hmm.
difficult situations. There many times are limits on what we're able to do and how much we're able to help.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we do it as much as we can, and we do what we can.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it seems like the smallest thing,
Mm-hmm.
and yet it is so significant
Mm-hmm.
to them. You know, we never know for sure
Mm-hmm.
how those actions and how our presence with them, what it means to them.
Yeah, it kind of just struck me with, the life of a sister, you any sister or any religious, you balance that, the prayer and the spirituality with the active service. And so, but the way you're describing it, it's, they kind of merge into one at times.
Yeah.
Where it is a spiritual experience for you to work with them, encountering Christ, as you say.
Yeah, it really is. You know, there are many times when I may not be aware of it in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
but as I reflect on my day, or as I'm praying and reflecting later, it's just so obvious to me that that was a God moment. This ministry is in our hands, but it's primarily in God's hands.
Right. Yeah.
And
Nano always said that too.
yeah, and I really do experience that. You know, just recently, the sister that was the director of our office, a very key part of our ministry since the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
developed some health issues and wasn't able to continue. And we were like, we need a director. Who's going to do this? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and we really were praying that to Nano and
Mm-hmm.
you know, God, of course. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, Nano, we need your help here. I know you went through really hard times, and, you know, many times it had to be very challenging for you. And so we really need your help, and we need,
Wow.
you know, the courage and the belief that you had. And I don't know, we just had this sense that it would work out. And then last summer we went on that pilgrimage to Ireland, and I was part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And as I prayed at Nano's grave, I had my hand laying on her grave, and I was begging in a good way.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, Martin, when we came back, I came back to the office, and there was this letter laying on the front desk. And I said to Astrid, our office manager, I said, "What is this?" And she goes, "I don't know." I said, "I opened it because I didn't know who it was for."
Right.
It was directed to the human resources director at Caminando Juntos. And I'm
Okay.
laughing because we got 3 people here, you know.
Right.
And so anyway, I looked at the letter, and Astrid said, "I think it's somebody that wants my job." And I looked at the letter and I said, "Oh no, she doesn't want your job."
Uh-huh.
And it was the woman that we ended up hiring as our director.
Okay. Wow.
I mean, it's just, so, I mean, God takes care of us in those kinds of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And also very much, I experience God's presence in the people that come to us and that we minister with each day. That's been true throughout these 17 and 18 years.
Yeah. Yeah. You've been there quite a while. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
2002. Yeah.
But I just see so many connections with Nano's ministry.
Yeah, that
You
is
know,
amazing.
we're educators. We're doing English classes. We've
Mhm.
set up computer stations now,
Right.
and we're teaching people to use computers. And I mean, those are just basic things, but if you don't have them,
Yeah.
it's a real struggle.
Yeah. Just kind of empowering people to help themselves.
Yeah, so we have that education component that Nano was so committed to.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we also are open to helping in whatever way we can to meet whatever needs we can.
When you first joined the sisters, what was your motivation at that time, and how does that tie in with?
Well, I was always I had presentation sisters for teachers.
Okay.
I grew up and was born and raised in Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had presentation sisters for teachers at Notre Dame in Mitchell. And
Right.
I was always very intrigued by them
Mm-hmm.
and by their spirit of just total dedication. Just the joy that I experienced in them. They always seemed to be having so much fun, you know, in a different kind of way, not the
Right.
same way that high school kids would, of course.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
There was just something deeper.
Yeah.
And I was always attracted to that. And then I went to school at Presentation College.
Okay.
And I met more sisters. And I don't know, there were a group of us in the college. There were 3 or 4 of us that got to talking, and we all 3 or 4 said, you know, we were interested in checking out the sisters.
Wow.
And so we did.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time it was, you know, the formation process had changed a lot because you didn't have to just give up everything and go live in the convent right away.
Mm-hmm.
We kept on going to college classes, and we were free to date or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we had a connection with the sisters. We were
Right.
called associates.
Okay.
And so it was a gradual process of moving into the community.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I mean, I didn't have any big, overwhelming vision or anything like that. It was more just a gradual, growing sense of being at home.
Okay.
And that
Yeah.
this fits.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I wanted to be a teacher. Sisters at that time were teachers. And so
Right,
there was a fit.
So it wasn't just like this big conversion moment, or
Oh, no, no.
more gradual process. Yeah.
No, yeah. And then I lived with sisters after I finished at presentation. I went to St. Cloud State University in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some sisters in formation that were living and going to school out at St. Benedict's out by St. John's. And so I lived out there with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a gradual process of moving into community life.
Okay.
And then I went, after college, I went and lived in Milwaukee, did what was traditionally the novitiate year there,
Mm-hmm.
living with sisters, taking theology courses at Marquette and so on.
Okay.
And then my ministry was, I started out teaching at Roncalli
Mm-hmm.
and taught there for a number of years, and then went to Del Rapids, St. Mary's, and then back to Roncalli. I think I spent, probably 12, 15 years at Roncalli altogether.
Okay, yeah.
And then, as part of my ministry at Roncalli, we used to take groups of students and faculty members down to our mission in Mexico
Okay.
in the
Yeah.
summer
Wow.
to do a mission trip.
Mm-hmm.
We had sisters down there that planned 10, 12 days for us. And we did projects down there with the sisters. And I think that's where this seed got planted. Something about the people in Mexico and they were indigenous people. They were native, very poor. That call then kind of grew in me as well. After probably 20 years of teaching, I decided that I wanted to check out this other call.
Mm-hmm.
And so I studied Spanish and did a cultural immersion program and so on and so forth, and then spent a couple of years at one of our missions in Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And then came back and worked at the parish, Our Lady of Guadalupe parish in Omaha, which was primarily Mexican
Mm-hmm.
immigrants. And then came the call to come here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've been in this ministry since that time. But
Okay.
I often say that, that experience of being in Mexico, especially the time when I lived there, the people were very, very poor.
Mm-hmm.
The state that we were in, Guerrero, was the second poorest state in Mexico, and we were way up in the mountains. And so we're talking like people that lived in sod or mud huts, adobe huts, or even bamboo huts with thatched roofs and dirt floors and no electricity or running water. And so, by our standards, they really had nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And yet everything they had was ours
Mm-hmm.
for the
Wow.
asking.
Okay.
And we'd go to the mountain villages to visit the people, and they'd kill their chickens to feed us. And we're like,
Wow.
don't kill your chickens, you need them. Just give us beans and tortillas. But,
Real
and I
generosity
often
there.
say that, that gift that they gave me of hospitality and welcoming me,
Mm-hmm.
not only into their homes, but into their hearts.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that became a gift that I try now to give back
Mm-hmm.
as people come here.
Yeah, that idea of hospitality is
Yeah.
it's a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
Being welcoming.
Well, and like I said, they have so little, and yet they're so very, very generous.
Willing to share. Yeah.
They're rich in spirit.
Yes.
Poor materially.
Uh-huh. And let me just ask you a little bit about now in your situation now, there's not many sisters down there. So as far as the community life, prayer life, what's that look like for you?
Well, I live with one other sister in an apartment, and there are two other sisters next door.
Okay.
To us in that same building. So we are a community in that apartment building. So we pray together and enjoy each other and spend time together and share meals together and so on. There's just two of us now in this ministry.
Right.
I think in Sioux Falls, there's still about 15 of us, maybe 13, 15,
yeah.
And living in different locations. There's 3 in one house. Usually, there are a few sisters that live alone, and then they form a community. It's called an extended community, or they form a community with other sisters. Like we have one sister that lives alone that is a member of our community. So from time to time, she gathers with us. So yes, the community piece is still very important to us.
Right.
And the prayer life. I don't know that I would be able to do this the way we are without that.
Yeah.
In fact, I know I wouldn't.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned just reflecting on things, on your experiences during that prayer time.
Well, and being in touch with that Spirit of God that lives in each one of us and really is the source that our ministry comes out of.
Yeah, just kind of a natural connection, seems like.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time, Sister Janet.
Well, I appreciate this opportunity.
Yes, thanks again. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for asking me.